a great movie. I kind of first heard about it
Thank
by
you.
just seeing the trailer in front of something else. And I was like, that's really interesting. I hadn't heard about this, and it was, I'm glad
Marketing
I
at
went
work.
in. I'm glad I went in fresh. And again, obviously, we don't want to spoil anything, so it's gonna be tough to talk about. But JT, starting with you, like, what kind of drove you to do something like this? I mean, there's that kind of serial killer element. I'm not sure how much of that's true. I'm not sure how much you can talk about, but what kind of like got you started on this?
I don't really have it in my DNA to sort of decide, oh, this is what the market likes, or this is what I should make a serial killer movie, and I'm just going to write one. I kind of have to be for a spec script. I have to be inspired organically by something, and I just write it. And when this image came to me of a woman running through the woods in distress, it was sort of the archetypal final girl. I didn't know what it meant, and I didn't know what kind of movie it was going to end up being. But as the rest of the story came to me, I thought, wow, what a interesting angle for a serial killer film. And I made a Western before, and the only reason I wanted to make that is because I felt like we found a little bit of a different approach or a different way to frame a Western. And with this, it excited me because I have all kinds of ideas all the time, but this idea came and it excited me more than the other ideas I had because I felt like it was a fairly conventional story, but the way, the order in which it's told made it surprising and unconventional and fleshed out the final girl in a way that I hadn't personally seen before. So I was excited to tell that story.
Giovanni, before I ask you about your journey into cinematography, I have to say I don't think I've ever seen a movie start with this movie was shot in 35 millimeter. I mean, obviously, like a certain period of time, you assume it was because that's all there was available. But these days, you can go either way, I guess. But I mean, I've never actually seen it announced.
Yeah, I know. I think, I mean, it was a dilemma between the two. And then at a certain point, I think it was a great idea because it really does set the tone almost in a meta sense that you're saying you're watching a movie that harkens back to sort of an older style of filmmaking. And I think that's part and parcel of the journey of the movie, really. And so I think at first I didn't know what to think of it, but I think it was really a good idea. And also because this is just JT's nature. Sorry, I'm speaking about you in the third, but there was so much support coming from Kodak at the time that he really wanted to acknowledge that from them, and it was just, yeah. So
Totally. And I think, Giovanni's he's a humble guy and he did great work on this film. And obviously the DP, when I wanted to put that at the beginning of the movie, the first reaction from any DP who's got some humility is like, whoa, maybe we shouldn't like announce that. But it wasn't a bragging thing. It was sort of, I think people maybe these days, it would help to educate, like people need to maybe be taught on some level what film looks like as opposed to digital photography and decide what turns them on the most. And
yeah.
so I wanted people to know, part of it was giving a shout out to Kodak and to film, but I also wanted people to know why the movie, if they like the way the movie looks, and not everybody will, but if they like the way the movie looks, I want them to know that how it came to be. People who aren't into cinema, who don't watch a lot of movies, they watch the movie and they say, "Oh, I like how this looks. I don't know why. I don't know why it makes me feel a certain way." Well, it was shot on film.
Yes. Giovanni, I used to run Below the Line, which is a website, basically for Below the Line. So I talked to a lot of DPs.
Oh,
I've
cool.
obviously a lot of actors have directed movies and directed other things. A lot of actors are photographers. I mean, what was your kind of like, what made you decide to go to JT and say, hey, I'm gonna shoot your movie?
So, well, yeah, I mean, I started acting when I was 9 years old, and so really grew up next to a camera, and it was always this fascination, and I started doing cinematography really seriously about 15 years ago, but sort of kept it in the background. And then when JT sent me this script, I think that was 2 years ago.
Mm.
Uh, I It was just sort of this thing that I felt it was just I was just inexorably drawn to, and I called him within 15 minutes of putting it down, the discussion just you know, evolved into us making the movie together and me shooting it, and that was that. And so it was really kind of, yeah, it was a moment. This is my first movie, and
Nice.
I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Oh, great job.
Yeah.
Hopefully you do more. Yeah. I mean, I love unconventional casting. So I got to ask you about Ed Begley and Barbara Hershey because it's like they're very, I saw the names in the beginning and I was like, oh, that's interesting. These like,
Yeah.
well-known actors with these two. I mean, Kyle's pretty well known, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Will and Kyle are definitely on the rise, and they've worked so much and they're on the trajectory up. We knew we were gonna find two sort of veteran, well-known, universally known movie stars for the two roles. And Ed Begley was I knew him through my aunt Deanna Mollner, who was one of the people who was instrumental in getting me to want to make movies. And so I'd met him through her years back. I had his number, but I didn't know him really well, but I really liked him. Always wanted to work with him. Barbara Hershey, I've been obsessed with working with since I started making movies. I mean, I remember watching Hannah and her sisters on TV when I was a kid and just instantly falling in love with her and thinking she was just the most incredible actress, and she's one of the greats. And so when we began to cast those roles, I said, let's make an offer to Barbara Hershey, and we made an offer to her. She didn't respond immediately. I tracked her down on social media, which I never do. I'm not even active on social media. And I said, will you please, we made an offer through your agents. Will you please read the script? She wrote back to me and she said, I will be reading with an open heart and an open mind. And I was like, okay, that's all I can ask. We finally met and she wasn't sure she wanted to do the movie. I had to talk to her about what the movie, I think I said, this isn't a traditional horror film. It's Taxi Driver meets Dress to Kill or something to that effect. And she was like, I'm in. So once she said she was in, I sent a text to Ed Begley Jr. and I said, are you free for 2 weeks in August to play Barbara Hershey's biker husband? And he said, send the script over. And the next day he accepted. So we're very, very lucky to have those two in our film.
Yeah,
two legends, and they're just perfect.
We started the movie with them. We started the production with them, and they were just, it was such a great foundation for everything, the rest of the schedule.
Yeah.
I quickly want to ask about the nonlinear aspect. Obviously, I don't want to spoil things, but it's really interesting to have an action movie that kind of starts with action, goes back and forth a lot. Did you write it like that, or did it kind of just happen as you were in the process of writing, editing, like going that route?
No, I know some people do this, and some of the greats do. I think Robert Altman found his movies in the edit. I can't work like that. So the only way I like to work is finding the movie before and shooting the movie the way we want to edit. We want to make the movie, and trying to get it. Now, obviously, you're improving things and fixing things in the edit, but this movie was written in that order, and it came to me in that order. So when I was conceptualizing the story over the course of months, I discovered those things in the same order that the viewer now discovers them. And once I got to that final chapter and I finally knew where these characters were going and what was going to happen, I was elated, and I felt like I needed to write it immediately. And it was the quickest typing process, because the writing process is that whole thing. But actually typing this script was the fastest experience I've ever had doing that, because the story was it was a puzzle that I had to figure out how to fit together. And once it fit together, it worked for me. And then it worked for Giovanni when I sent it to him, thank God. So,
yeah, I mean, you read it and you definitely see nonlinear stories, I mean, going back to the 50s and 60s, Harikiri, Kwaidan, all the way through, Pulp Fiction becomes the sort of is emblematic of that. But this was done in a way that I've never seen, and it was incredible to see something that you're familiar with, but it's fresh. And I will say it's not necessarily, and it becomes sort of invisible within the experience of the film, because what I think drove that really was the characters, and it goes back to these two people leading these bifurcated lives. that come together this one night. And so that's all. Yeah.
And we
Well,
hope, I
thanks.
mean, just like the out of sequence storytelling should be, everybody's going to talk about it, but it shouldn't throw you off because it is the way it came to me. It should feel in a way invisible.
Yeah, it's
just like the long takes in the movie. There are a couple really, really long takes in the film. And from a cinematography standpoint, those people don't mention those or ask us about those very often. And I think that's a testament to the execution and also the fact that narratively we wanted you to be in those scenes and not notice. It's not like a flashy shot we're trying to do to impress you. They were right for the narrative, and he was serving the narrative with those shots. So we're hoping that the devices we use in this film don't overshadow the characters in the story.
No, I think you did brilliant work, and I'm sure this movie is going to be studied. And I wish I had an hour with you too, because it's so many questions. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate
Thanks.
it.
It was
Thank
nice
you.
meeting you.
Great to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you.